In the name of God, the compassionate, the merciful. Good evening, friends, and welcome to the 29th episode of Crime and Punishment, a legal podcast from Orlando, Florida, the official podcast of the Invictus Law Firm, PA, a criminal defense law firm in the city beautiful. The website for which is augustusinvictus.com, and that is me, yours truly, your host for the evening, and I am here with my trusty co-host, Tiger Jin. A man of few words.
Yep.
As I said. So, we have a lot of news to discuss tonight. We're going to talk about domestic terrorism, the Chauvin saga, Biden's plan to vaccinate every child in America between the ages of 5 and 11. You heard it first right here. To be honest, I heard it first from the Washington Post, but you heard it first from here because you don't read the Washington Post. That's why you're listening to this show. Let's talk about plugs. We've got to start with that because I always forget these things. Chase says this sounds goof. I'm hoping that means sounds good, and that was a typo. So, here is the latest issue of the newsletter. I did not send one out this week, to be quite frank. My fault, but please sign up for the newsletter with that link. I'm also going to post a link here for the Viral Style Collection, where you can get our awesome St. Augustine shirt, our Invictus hat, something else, I think, the Imperium mug.
Wait, there's a St. Augustine shirt?
Oh, yeah. You haven't seen that? Come on, man.
I guess I should.
This is your collection too.
Is he like the patron saint of this podcast?
Well, he's actually, unironically, my patron saint. That's my confirmation name, Aurelius Augustinus, in the Catholic Church.
All right.
Funny enough, my youngest son, his baptismal name is Aurelius Augustinus. He did not have a Christian name. I guess in traditional Catholicism, you have to have a saint's name in your name for the baptism, for the baptismal rite. He didn't have one, so we had to give him one, and I gave him my confirmation name. So he is also Aurelius Augustinus. So yeah, I guess he is the patron saint of the show.
Okay.
You know what? I'm going to click on that just for you, Tiger. I'm going to post that. Are you, you know what? I'll post it in the chat, and then I'll post it in Telegram. EcoFash Matt says, I still sport Invictus 2020.
That is awesome.
Yeah, I got to publish the Eagle shirts. I'm waiting for the right time for that.
And you know what? Where else are you going to get a St. Augustine shirt? Augustine. Which way?
Yeah, you can get a St. Augustine shirt in St. Augustine, Florida. But no, the saint is pronounced St. Augustine. The city in Florida is called St. Augustine. It's really confusing.
Yeah.
That's how it goes. Anyway, so I sent it to you in Telegram. I posted it in the chat. Everybody can see our St. Augustine shirt. It's also got a hoodie. Winter is coming.
Yes.
And I think this hoodie is sweet. Actually, I'm going to buy one myself.
There you go.
This just made the list. All right, so first things first, let's talk about this Biden plan. And then we've got real news. Not that, I guess this is real news. It's real bad news is what it is. As you know, we here at Crime and Punishment take no political stance. We do everything within our power, our human power, to stay out of politics. We have nothing to do with it. We love Big Brother as much as the next guy. We think the Biden administration is double plus good, comrade. Nothing bad to say about it. They make it very difficult, though, to stay out of politics when Washington Post sends you an email that says, coronavirus updates. Inside the White House's plan to vaccinate kids ages 5 to 11. And not just, hey, we've got, a multicolored needle that we give to your kids with lollipops if you want to have your kids vaccinated. No. There are 28 million U.S. children aged 5 to 11. And the Biden administration said Wednesday the United States has acquired enough doses of the Pfizer-BioNTech coronavirus vaccine to immunize all of those kids for free. The government is coordinating with local jurisdictions to distribute pediatric vaccines to more than 25,000 pharmacies, doctors' offices, and other venues, per today's White House announcement. They are trying to force all kids ages 5 to 11 to get vaccinated. That's a different story.
Yeah.
If this whole debate where you walk into a Walmart and someone's screaming at... I walked into a post office, and I'm in Florida. I walked into a post office today, and the woman's hollering at me about, next time you come in here, you better be wearing a mask. Thank you. I'll never be coming back in here. I don't frequent this neighborhood, but is this good to go? Can we mail this? Okay. That's fine and well. I'll deal with that all day long. Whatever. But saying that you're going to force all kids ages 5 to 11, and right now I actually don't have any kids ages 5 to 11, funny enough. They're either high teens now or younger than 5. So really this doesn't personally affect me at all, but in a year it will. And this is getting to where it's off limits. It's no longer just some political sideshow. This is now they're forcing it on your kids.
Yeah.
What do you do about that?
I don't know how much I want to say about it on this show, but I mean, I don't know. It just, I don't see how anybody thinks that this is legal. Forcing people to vaccinate, again, these mandates and things like that. It just...
Well, because the Supreme
bizarre.
Court case said that the government has an interest in vaccinations, and by the way, that's how we got rid of polio. So now they can force people to do whatever they want with whatever experimental vaccine for a non-lethal virus that they want. So totally legal.
I don't know. I mean, it just... Yeah, and especially considering the low death toll for kids that age, and then the way children develop too when it comes to their immune system, and I don't know. It doesn't make any sense. I don't like it. Yeah.
We got still have my Eat the Bankers shirt. Nice, Chase. I love those shirts. Is Crime and Punishment, asked Dead Thomas the Tank Engine. What a metal name. Is Crime and Punishment named from the Dostoevsky novel? Your podcast name has me now reading the book. Thank you. Yes and no. I mean, it's kind of a nod to that. I'm actually not a Dostoevsky fan. I hated that book. Not that I had like philosophical differences with it. I'm not really a fiction guy. But yes, it's a nod to that, but it's also, a phrase that has entered the English language having to do with criminal defense and all criminal topics. So, considering my background and the nature of the law firm, we went with Crime and Punishment. And actually, that's something I've been thinking about. And Tiger, I haven't really talked about it with you. This show has kind of morphed into a legal news show.
Yeah.
We don't talk philosophy anymore, or do readings or things like that, like we do with Guerrilla Radio, which is a program that will never return because we love Big Brother. So I was thinking of doing a second podcast. I've been thinking of doing a second podcast for entrepreneurship and business law.
Oh.
But now I'm thinking maybe I should do that second podcast on like the legal philosophy stuff. Yeah, because I tell you, man, like being a father, I'd like to do the entrepreneurship podcast in the mornings. It's just playing rough, man. Like getting the kids to school. You gotta get the Cheerios. You gotta get their shoes on. I told you 30 times, get your shoes on. Get downstairs. What are you doing? Stop getting Play-Doh on the floor. And it's like, by the time I'm back at the office, how am I gonna? I got calls to make. I got emails. I got the office to run. It's so I don't know, man.
Yeah, I mean, still kicking those. I've been around kids my whole life too, and now I got one of my own. So yeah, I get it.
Yeah, it's tough, man. I'm still kicking the idea around about a second podcast, but we're being asked, where did you and Tiger discuss philosophy? That was the first several episodes. We're on episode 29 tonight. My goodness, what a
And I try and
what a journey.
Sneak a lot of that some of the more legal philosophies in as we're talking about it, like the last one we did with the abortion stuff. But
so it's one thing to discuss the legal news and then say, well, here's the history of this jurisprudence and here's the legal philosophy. And I think you brought up Blackstone last time, actually.
Yep.
The English legal philosopher. So I think that's kind of the point of the show, is that you have two lawyers who are discussing legal news, whereas all the pundits and the talking heads, like, they're not lawyers. They're just talking about the news and complaining about the things that everybody wants to complain about, and they're like, oh, I like the way that guy talks, I'm going to listen to that. But they have no legal training. So, I think that's the point of it. But I think a legal philosophy podcast would be more, there is no legal news. We're talking pure law.
Yeah.
That's the academic in me would prefer.
And I mean, that's something I do want to try and keep doing it. Especially my favorite episode was our dueling episode.
Oh yeah.
but like what's really the reason why it's morphed into this legal news thing is these ridiculous 2021 cases that just keep happening. And now we got Arbery and Rittenhouse cases running right on top of each other. So it's just like...
Well, what's crazy about it is that, for the last 10, 20, 30 years, you're watching something on TV, and unless it's something outrageous like, the O.J. Simpson trial, really, you're watching a show on television, you're watching the trial unfold, and lawyers are talking about, this is how the legal process works, this is how jury selection works, this is how these things happen. Now he'll have his sentencing hearing, there's a pre-sentencing investigation, like they'll explain all that stuff on the news. Now we got podcasts, and there's a host of just commentary out there, but really the thing is, now there are no rules in court. Now that, it used to be, well, we're going to have this commentary, we're going to explain to the audience what this procedure is like and all these legal things that you're uninitiated in. And now it doesn't matter if you're initiated or not. There are no rules anymore. It's the Wild West. In every courtroom in America, everything is just like, well, just throw that out the window. It's white supremacist. All this 1,000-year legal tradition we've had, forget about that. All these rules of evidence we've developed so that you can't bring this in, you can't bring that in, you got to do this, that, and the other to protect the rights of the criminal defendant. No, throw that out. This is a public case. This is a media case. We don't need all those rules that we've developed since the time of William the Conqueror's invasion of England. It's amazing to see what's happened since 2017, and especially this year. This year, like you said, Tiger, is just insane the way trials unfold. It's like, no, these are not the rules. This is not American law. I don't know what's going on, but it's a revolution out there, man.
And I mean, I brought it up briefly before. When you look at Chinese governance and military strategy, philosophy, leadership philosophy, the ancient works, they would always emphasize consistent rewards, consistent punishments. That's how you govern, that's how you lead. And it's one of my gripes with our American judicial system, where it's just like, if you get pulled into court, you don't really know what your punishment is going to be if you do get punished.
Yeah, that's exactly the point. Like when we were growing up in the Cold War, the dogma always was, this is the difference between American law and Soviet law. Under Anglo-American common law, which is our entire legal tradition for 1,000 years, you have to proscribe things. In writing, there has to be a law to prohibit an action. And if there is no law against it, then you're free to do it. If the law is not clearly spelled out, you're not going to be punished under the law. In Soviet law, however, you go into the Soviet court and they say, well, yeah, this is how the law is written, but you should have known this. And they interpret the law and they punish you based on their interpretation. That was the whole difference, is that we have this tradition of law that does not allow that sort of thing, that upholds civil liberties. And that's just over. It's gone. Done with.
And it's, too, a big part of what's going on now, the reason why it is like this, is this ridiculous political polarization and not that it's a bad thing, but, the diversity in the country, things like that. So when you do go to court, all of a sudden now it depends who's on the jury, who's the judge. And that is going to contribute to what gets heard, what the punishment will be, whether they'll find you guilty, what's going to happen, and all that. It contributes so much just who these people are that may or may not be like you.
What do you mean, these people? I didn't want to interrupt you, but I do want to clarify for everyone out there, we are big supporters of diversity on this program.
It's the American way of life.
That's right. We are a melting pot. Unless melting pots make it racist, in which case we need safe spaces and the threatened and oppressed can self-segregate, but that's, their prerogative because they're free and equal and all that. Above equal, even. We were talking about the moral philosophy of jurisprudence today at college. I was thinking about how much I'd like to hear you discuss such topics. That's IVAS the 6th. Sorry, Ty, I was just scrolling up through these while ranting.
Oh, right.
Invictus, what are you... This is EcoFash Matt. Invictus, what are you doing in your off time? Baked is grifting in Tampa. Baked Alaska? Baked Alaska is in Tampa? Is that... Why? Interesting.
No, I believe he's going through a criminal trial right now.
Baked Alaska. Oh, and you mean in D.C.?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Baked Alaska.
Yeah, but I'm not going to judge him for that. Him being in Tampa, though, that's news to me. I don't know. I don't know anything about it, if that's what you're asking.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm saying. I'm just isn't he really busy with a trial right now? I mean, I haven't been following. I don't even know whether or not he's in jail.
Well, if he's in Tampa, he's certainly not in jail. But as to the first question, Invictus, what are you doing in your off time? Off time. I don't really have that. I've got the law firm and I've got the family, and that is literally my entire life. Oh, I do still lift, 100%.
Based.
I'm in the middle of the Smolov program right now, so I'm on week 3 of Smolov, which is a strength training program. I do the double Smolov. I wrote a whole article about this years ago, the double Smolov, the War Machine series of articles. About my
not
training programs.
familiar. What's this small love?
Smolov, Smolov. It's a Russian weightlifter. He developed this program for squats, but I adapted it so that I do squats and bench in the same program. I call it the double Smolov. So I'm in the middle of that. That's how I gained a lot of weight. Back in 2017, I went up from 165 to 220. And I mean, a lot of it was fat. Let's be real here, but my strength improved dramatically because I would just do nothing but eat and small off. And so that does take a lot of energy, but also, and this is something we've discussed in previous episodes, like our training programs, like, I sleep on the floor, I wake up at 5 a.m., I take cold showers, I do my breathing exercises. I'm a machine. I'm an absolute machine now. So I have no toxic influences, no poison in my body. So Smolov now is a different animal than it was years ago. When I still had sugar and caffeine and I took hot showers that made me weak. But now it's a different program now. So, see.
I have to make a confession. Now that it's fall, I'm off of cold showers. I'm being totally degenerate now with my hot showers.
American man is getting weak over winter. Yeah, it gets colder, man. Most people don't realize that, but the water is stored outside. So when you're taking cold showers in the winter, it's cold. It is freezing.
Yeah, and my home isn't climate controlled, so it's like it's cold, then go and dump ice cold water on myself, then walk out in the cold. It's just so you don't get that. One of the nice benefits of cold showers is like you walk out and then you warm up, as opposed to if you're taking a hot shower, you walk out and then your body starts cooling down. And so, if it's just cold all the time, I'm not sure how smart it would be to freeze myself and then go out into cold.
Well,
unless I'm Wim Hof.
That's what I was about to say. Exactly. You beat me to it. You took the words right out of my mouth. The other half of this equation is breathing, right? So I've been very public about I have done Kundalini yoga training for years now, and that's the other half of it. And like Wim Hof, he was a student of yoga, and he just took all of that and took it away from the mystical language and the religious stuff and just said, here are the breathing exercises you need to do, and gave us this whole system of breathing. So the cold and the breathing, that's Wim Hof's entire system. So if you're doing the pranayama, if you're doing the breathing exercises, the cold is no longer an issue. And I say that as a Floridian, it's just, the winter baths here are not the same thing as a winter bath up north.
I actually went through his entire 12-week program or however long it was. Yeah, I went through that and I was just like, eek, this is so I'm a Qigong practitioner. There's differences between the yoga, but when I was going through it and studying it and everything, I'm just like, this is actually like a in Chinese it's almost like a Weigong program. It's like an external exercise.
Yeah.
His breathing technique is almost like a cheat technique.
That's exactly what it is.
Get the benefits of it.
That's exactly what it is. Yeah, because he's demystified it. He's made it practical and applicable. I actually think that's a virtue of the Wim Hof system.
Yeah, and I talked with a blood scientist researcher. I was talking with one of them one time about things like this, and I don't even think I was specifically talking about Qigong, but it just came up like we were talking about the role of the kidneys and the bloodstream and things like that. And she's like, oh yeah, when your body doesn't have oxygen in it, what happens is that the kidneys, they send like blood and oxygen into the bone marrow, and that makes more blood and oxygen going through the system when you're deoxygenated. And I don't even think Wim Hof mentions that. And I was blown away because a major component of Qigong is what's called the Sisui Jing, which is bone marrow washing. And it's like, so it's bone marrow washing is what they call it. And if you read the old Qigong manuals and things like that, it's all meditative and things like that. But then if you're doing intermittent hypoxia training, according to this blood scientist, she's telling me like, yeah, that's pretty much what's going on. You're activating the bone marrow. It's creating the in blood that's sending the oxygen through the system. And in Qigong philosophy, wherever the blood moves, that's where Qi goes. And so,
what is it Tony Robbins says? Where your focus is, that's where the energy flows.
yeah, that's another thing. Yeah, that and Nan Huaijin, he was big on that. He would they call it like 1 point focusing and things like that. Yeah.
Moral of the story: Eco-Fash Matt, don't ask us what we do in our off time. We'll start nerding out about breathing techniques and weightlifting and God knows what. So that's what we do in our off time.
Yes.
Half an hour into the show, we've not discussed a single article. So,
oh man.
Storm Hunter, the OSHA issuing medical mandates to workplaces is not legal. So yeah, someone earlier had said something about Biden's executive order about I forget the language, but over 100 employees, you're required to mandate vaccines, right? So the question is that legal? Can you use OSHA, it was federal employment law, to kind of backdoor this vaccine mandate for all these companies that have over 100 people, which is a lot of companies. I mean, a lot of people work in these big corporations in America. So as Calvin Coolidge said, big business is the business of America. So that's going to be a legal issue eventually, does he have the legal authority to do this? We'll see. But that's the back door. I was talking about that with my friend today, actually. Garia Radio, yeah, that's gone. Where'd You and Tiger discuss philosophy? In our earlier episodes of this podcast, we are at 29 now. Are you really okay with your kids being masked all day in school? No. My little kids don't have to be. The older kids, Orange County is in a fight right now over this vicious fight. It was that they opened the school year and parents could send in a letter saying that they're exempt from wearing the mask. So I did, but now, it's Orange County is just like any other place where everybody's at war over this issue. So it just goes on and on and on. The real question is when my kids become adults, they leave high school. You're now required to get a vaccine mandate to go in the military, to become an officer, to, let's say, to go to college. Because that's a couple years away. Who says, Yale, Princeton, Harvard, maybe not the Catholic University of America, but Georgetown, certainly. All these schools, they're going to be requiring vaccine mandates if they're not already pushing that already. Well,
you're speaking specifically about this COVID vaccine?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I was gonna say, like, the military, you always have.
Well, yeah. No, but now, it's a vaccine.
I took the swine flu vaccine when I was in there.
Yeah, but you got paid for it, right? So it's different. Yeah. Now you get kicked out if you don't take it. So that's the issue. If my kids go in the military, nothing I can do about that. Like, I could fight the Orange County School Board all day long, but fighting the DOD on vaccinating soldiers. It comes a point where your kids leave the nest.
Like, I'll see articles every now and then. They're forcing vaccines on the soldiers, and like they have legal means to fight back. I'm like, I don't think they do have a legal. Like, I don't know. At least when I was in, I saw some people try and they were completely against any vaccines. They didn't want to take the flu shots, whatever. They would try and get out of it, and they couldn't. So I don't know. I don't think there is an avenue for a soldier to get out of vaccination. I could be wrong, but I never saw or heard of any way out of it.
Yeah, well, the military is its own thing. And
we had a saying where We protect the Constitution in the Army, but we do not practice it.
I like that.
When you're a soldier, you have no rights.
Yeah, true. Well, they've been trying to change that for a long time, and they've been trying to destroy the military with that. And now we've got such insane propaganda that, we've got recruiting videos where I'm a gay woman and I joined the military to be free and so on and so forth. And then you put that next to the Russian recruiting ad, and it's just, the opposite sort of propaganda. We will crush our enemies. That whole thing. So it's really scary, the picture that's being painted there. But military hasn't fallen apart yet. Gray says, I spoke with you in 2019 after a fight with Antifa. Do you remember that conversation? I ended up avoiding prison. Crazy story. Well, okay, well, don't talk about that in public, please, for the love of God. I don't know which fight that was, or I don't want you to say your legal name, but just email me about that, all right? Tell me the crazy story in email when it's attorney-client privilege. All right. Is it legal for OSHA to mandate vaccines? Well, that's going to be going to the Supreme Court, like we said. Without law, how do we have any order? Yeah, that's
exactly.
Fair point. Capitalism, this is the inundation. Capitalism and liberalism kills just as well. That sounds like a political statement. We take no position on that. We're merely reading the news here. Bless you and your family. Glad someone else is raising kids properly. Thank you. One stream you chugged a whole gallon of milk. LOL. Yeah, I did. So let's just go back to that and Smolov. So part of Smolov training, the fun part is the boring but big diet. So you get a gallon of milk, a pound and a half of beef, and 12 eggs every day. That's how you blow up. That's how you gain mega weight doing that. So that's how I got from 165 to 220. It wasn't just from the the weightlifting program. It was from, drinking a gallon of milk a day with 12 eggs and a pound of meat.
I wonder if that's where that meme came from. Like I remember Sam Hyde doing a bit where he's just like chugging a whole bunch of milk and.
Good man. Yeah, that's how you put on weight. The legal system has become hyper-politicized like the rest of society. Yeah, I mean, law and politics have always been one. Carl Schmitt, who I plug on this program all the time, made that point about law and politics, and I'd recommend the concept of the political. I'd recommend the crisis of parliamentary democracy. Really, I'd recommend everything the guy ever wrote. He's hands down my favorite legal philosopher, but concept of the political talks about that, about the politicization of law, especially in the context of World War I and international law, the Kellogg-Briand Pact, how the League of Nations came into being. And the really valuable point about all that Schmitt made is that these liberals, and I mean that like the internationalist liberals at the time, I'm not making any comments about present-day liberals, saying the internationalists at the time talking about how we're going to outlaw war, everybody's going to be a democracy, and democracies don't fight, and we're going to have world peace, and all that stuff that led up to the League of Nations and World War II and the United Nations. It was all based on the concept that once you outlaw war, anyone who engages in war is a barbarian. In fact, they're not even human. And therefore, any atrocity you commit against them, you could bomb Dresden, murder women and children with napalm. You could, in Vietnam, you can do whatever you want, man. You could rape their women en masse. You can just dream up horrors to commit. And that's okay, because you know what? They started this war. They don't want to sign on to our new world order. They don't want to outlaw war with the rest of us. They engaged in these wars of aggression. Therefore, it's all on the table. Blockading their country and starving all of their children, bombing hospitals, bombing civilian targets to break their people's will. So I would highly recommend the work of Carl Schmitt because he's the one who pointed that out the best. So, Psyche says, I'm going to Adoration to say some Hail Marys for your souls. I assume she's talking about the people in the comments, not us, Tiger.
Okay.
All right, so we've gotten through most of the comments there. Let's talk about the articles now that we've gone 45 minutes into the show without them. What a disaster. Where do you want to start? You want to start with Thorbury?
Yeah, I've been staring at his face this entire time in this article, so.
All right. We've also got Nicholas Cruz. Is his sentencing up right now?
He pleaded guilty.
But
so.
When is his sentencing hearing? Was it today?
I believe I saw the news of him pleading guilty today, so I would. I don't know.
This is a video. We don't mind. Actually, let's just watch the video. Well, I mean, we can't watch it, but let's listen to it.
May I take off my mask? Sure.
Yeah,
I am very sorry for what I did, and I have to live with it every day. And that if I were to get a second chance, I would do everything in my power to try to help others. And I am doing this for you, and I do not care if you do not believe me. And I love you, and I know you don't believe me, but I have to live with this every day. And it brings me nightmares, and I can't live with myself sometimes. But I try to push through because I know that's what you guys would want me to do. I hate drugs, and I believe this country would do better if everyone would stop smoking marijuana and doing all these drugs and causing racism and violence out in the streets. I'm sorry, and I can't even watch TV anymore. And I'm trying my best to maintain my composure, and I just want you to know I'm really sorry. And I hope you give me a chance to try to help others. If I believe it's your decision to decide where I go and whether I live or die. Not the jury's. I believe it's your decision. I'm sorry.
Man, that was... Well, anyway, that was his statement in pleading guilty. So, let's talk about Arbery. I don't know.
Yes.
Let's come back to that story when the sentencing does come about.
And so for Arbery, the jury selection has started today. They are going through 1,000 possible jurors. And so it's fully expected that it's going to take more than 2 weeks. I've been keeping tabs on it, the process, but I haven't been watching it because I just find jury selection boring.
What? Jury selection is the best part, man.
So
have you ever seen Devil's Advocate?
No. But the way
I
that
see
they're
a black man who makes his own shoes, keeps a gun under his bed. Man, you've really never seen Devil's Advocate?
No.
Oh my God, bro! It's one of Keanu Reeves' defining films. I cannot believe you've not seen Devil's Advocate. What kind of lawyer are you? Southern lawyer, no less, man. The guy, he's from Gainesville. Oh man, you've got to watch. That's your homework assignment for next week.
Wait, what Gainesville? What state?
Florida.
Florida? Okay.
Yeah, Gainesville, Florida. Got the Florida stud thing going on. Bro, it's an amazing movie. Like, it is a timeless classic. You've got to watch it.
All right.
In fact, I'm writing it down in my notes right now. Tiger, Devil's Advocate. All right, go ahead. What were you saying?
Okay, so what I wanted to go through for this whole Arbery thing, so I am plagiarizing from Andrew Branca's Law of Self-Defense here, where he gives 7 pieces of evidence regarding Ahmaud Arbery that the jury will likely never hear about. These were, I spoke briefly about them in an earlier show when they were doing the motions hearing. A lot of these were ruled on, and the judge said it's not coming in. And I think maybe the jury isn't going to hear it, but I think our audience can know a little bit more about Arbery. So the first piece of evidence, Arbery was a convicted thief. As one example of Arbery's theft activities, in 2018, he entered a guilty plea to the offense of felony shoplifting in connection with his attempt to shoplift a television from a Walmart. And they were going to admit some police body cam footage of that, but the judge said no. Second, Arbery was a convicted felon sentenced to 5 years for unlawful gun possession at a school. He was found, and this happened in 2013, he was found guilty of felony gun possession on school grounds, likely while he was smiling and wearing that suit and tie that we all see, as well as 3 counts of felony obstruction of an officer for his violent non-compliance with arrest that resulted in injury to the officers. The trial judge, he prohibited that evidence. Number 3. Arbery was on felony probation on the date that he died. Unexpectedly, Arbery's shoplifting conviction described above would result in the revocation of his probation for the gun conviction also described above. Nevertheless, Arbery was back out on probation on February 23, 2020, the date on which he charged Travis McMichael and was shot dead in the physical struggle that followed. The state has filed a motion in limine to prohibit the defense from presenting this evidence at trial, to which the defense objected. And he gives all that. We do not yet have a final ruling on that we know of. Number 4, Arbery was high when he charged Travis McMichael and fought for the shotgun. A comprehensive and powerful chemical test of Arbery's blood conducted on July 14, 2020, found the presence of 3.2 and whatever you say that, of THC, the active ingredient of marijuana in Arbery's system. Interestingly, a less comprehensive and less powerful blood test conducted shortly after Arbery's death had mistakenly come back negative for the presence of drugs of abuse. The state intends to introduce this first blood test at trial as evidence that Arbery was not intoxicated with drugs commonly associated with aggressive behavior at the time of his death. At the same time, the state has asked the trial court to prohibit the defense from introducing the results of the more comprehensive and powerful second blood test that came back positive for THC in Arbery's system at the time of his death.
How do you say that with a straight face?
Yeah.
How do you say out of one side of your mouth, like, we should have this test that's not as good and show that he wasn't on drugs, but this test that's better and shows he was on drugs, let's keep that out? Did the judge actually rule on this and exclude that evidence?
We don't know yet.
Oh, okay.
Right? Yeah,
I thought this was one of the lists you were saying, like, these are all
Yeah,
the
this
things
is
he
one
kept out.
of the lists. So we're going through what is likely not going to be heard. So the attorney writing this, he says that he expects that the trial judge will prohibit the defense from presenting this evidence of Arbery's THC intoxication at trial. So
Wow, man. This is just... Did you see the link I sent you about Marty Tancleff?
No.
So on Instagram, this guy goes by the moniker Exonerated. The guy was just railroaded as a kid. He was over 18. He was a 19-year-old kid. His parents were murdered. Prosecution just railroaded him. Totally unethical behavior. Everybody was in on it. It was this, like, New York cops were mixed up with these businessmen, and the prosecutor's office, like, all these people have gone to jail ever since. The guy spent 14 years in prison for the murder of his own parents. Turns out he had absolutely nothing to do with it. They found the guy that did it. The guy was exonerated, and he ended up going to law school. Now he's a lawyer. And he takes these sorts of cases. And what you're saying is kind of like what had happened to this guy, like, except in the reverse, of course, because the prosecution in this case is trying to say, well, this guy, he's dead. He is the victim. the homicide victim. Let's paint him as a saint. So I saw the picture in the article. They did the old Michael Brown routine. Okay, thank you for that notification. So they had the whole routine where they published his high school senior photo and all that, right? So
yeah.
They did the same thing to this guy, but in reverse. So when it's the criminal defendant, the prosecution will say, well, let's keep this out, let's put this in. And it's amazing. What's really amazing is that, we jump up and down and scream about how unjust this is and how this could never happen in America, but really, it is happening every single day. Every day, prosecutors are doing this sort of game. And they justify it by saying, it's up to the jury. If the judge is going to let it in, the judge is going to let it in. The jury, they're smart. They're the triers of fact. They'll figure it out. And they justify this to themselves in their own mind. Like, it's okay if I put forward insane theories of a case. It's okay if I put forward things that I know are unethical, if the judge lets it in. It's okay if I put forward a drug test that I know was bogus, and I try to keep out in the same breath a drug test that's more comprehensive and shows that this dead guy was on drugs when he tried to take a shotgun. Because, hey, I'm just doing my job. It's the judge who's going to let it in, and if the judge lets it in, it's up to the jury to decide that. This is the culture of prosecution in this country. It's like, well, not my responsibility. It's the judge who's going to let it in, and it's the jury who's going to decide. It's not my problem. I'm just doing my job. That's corruption to its core, is what it is.
It gets better. we got more here.
You weren't done? I thought that...
No.
I've been ranting this whole time. I thought the list was over.
Nope. We have another one. Arbery was literally off his meds when he charged Travis McMichael. So, noting his deteriorating mental health condition in the weeks leading up to his probation officer, who in 2018 had ordered a mental health evaluation of Arbery as a result of such concerns. There is evidence that Arbery described to his mental health evaluator that he had auditory delusions that compelled him to rob, steal, and hurt people, leading him into combative behavior and anger that led to difficulty for him both inside and outside his home. Arbery, as a result of this mental health evaluation, was diagnosed with schizoaffective disorder, which is often characterized by uncontrolled violence, aggression, and poor impulse control. Which, by the way, I did a little bit of research on this schizoaffective disorder. This might be an instance of racism because blacks are disproportionately diagnosed with schizoaffective disorder in comparison to whites. So I'm putting that out there. This might be a little bit racist. Consistent with these violent characteristics of this disorder, in June 2018, Arbery's own mother had called 911 to report that Arbery was withholding her car keys from her. She cautioned the 911 dispatcher that Arbery's mental condition had worsened over time. She also cautioned the responding police officers that Arbery might get violent due to his mental illness if they tried to arrest him. Arbery was subsequently prescribed psychiatric medication, specifically Zyprexa, in an effort to control his schizoaffective disorder. Blood tests after Arbery's death indicated absolutely no detectable Zyprexa in his system, meaning he was literally off his meds. The state has asked the court to prohibit this evidence. And let me see, was there a ruling on that?
But on what grounds?
Yeah, so
like you can't just say, I don't want this evidence coming in because it is devastating to our case, Your Honor. You've got to have some kind of grounds for why his mental state at the time when he charged the guys with a shotgun is not relevant.
Well, I mean, let me see because he's got the motion right here from the state. I can see how they put
You have seen Liar, Liar, right? With Jim Carrey.
No.
Oh my God, Tiger, I'm adding it to the list. Devil's Advocate, Liar, Liar. These are all important lawyer movies. I just quoted Liar, Liar. You didn't even notice, man. He all right, so here's the premise. His kid makes a wish, and the guy can't lie. And he's a lawyer, so the entire movie is him saying things that lawyers would never say because he's telling the truth all the time. And one of them, he objects, and the judge is like, on what grounds? And he says, because it's devastating to my case, Your Honor.
Okay,
anyway,
right.
You've got to watch it. You got to watch it before the trial starts.
I mean, in this, I pulled it up. If you want the actual answer, the state says Mr. Arbery's mental health status does not make any issue in this case more or less likely. His mental health is not relevant to the issue of whether Travis McMichael shot and killed him. Okay, so
isn't this a self-defense case?
Yeah. So most of these pieces of evidence, I remember hearing a lot of pundits, even unfortunately from court TV. No, not court TV, but anyway. So they would say it is not relevant because Travis McMichael, he did not know who Arbery was, which, by the way, he might actually do. He might actually know who Arbery was. Anyway, they're saying it's not relevant because he doesn't know who he is. He doesn't know that Arbery has these mental health problems, all this kind of stuff. And they would say evidence like that, this kind of character evidence, cannot be admitted in such a self-defense situation. But you actually can admit things like this, that the person, I'll just use their names as an example, just to make describing this easier. So you could admit this evidence of Arbery, all this stuff that Travis McMichael did not know or might have had no way of possibly knowing, as character evidence, because you have, it's for the fact finder, for the jury, to be able to make an evaluation as to who was the more likely aggressor, because that is critical in a self-defense situation.
Right. 100%.
Yeah, you need to know who was the aggressor in this situation in order to know whether or not he has a claim to self-defense. So it really is all relevant in that sense. I mean, So anyway, moving on. Number 6. This is one of my favorites. Arbery frequently used jogging as a cover to facilitate excuse and his theft activities. On August 21st, 2018, Arbery was observed and body camera recorded in a neighbor's backyard looking into her car windows. When police approached Arbery afterwards to give him a trespass warning, he falsely claimed that he had simply been running in the street. He then became aggressive and confrontational with the officers, threatening that he would whip the officers' ass if they didn't leave him alone. He was not arrested. Oh, sorry.
Family show.
Oh, I was just reading straight through.
Yes, this was a reading. This is not Tiger's own words.
Yeah, and in fact, people know me. I never cuss. I never.
We're going to sue this outlet for driving down our viewership.
Anyway, on October 23rd, 2018, Arbery was confronted trespassing inside a mobile home by local deputies. Arbery fled when approached by police. When later caught, he falsely claimed he was just out running. In 2019-2020, Arbery was repeatedly seen attempting to enter neighboring homes through their windows. Whenever confronted in the act, Arbery would take off running. Also in 2019-2020, local convenience stores began to refer to Arbery as the Jogger for his repeated conduct of running up in front of convenience stores, going through stretching motions, and then entering the convenience store to seize items, and then running quickly back out to flee with the stolen merchandise. So, yeah, that's one of my favorites because I don't think you're familiar with how this was going down. right away, the media and leftist pundits, they were saying that
those are two different things.
Yeah, Arbery was just jogging. And the internet took off with that, referring to Arbery as the jogger. And then we later get this defense motion showing that, in fact, that was his nickname.
He was called the Jogger, but for a different reason. That's funny.
So, yeah. And again, we don't have a ruling on it, but it's expected that the judge will prohibit it. Now, the final one. Arbery had repeatedly cased the 221 Satilla Drive property for weeks prior to his death. And this one here is describing how there was all the surveillance video footage showing that he was always going up there. February 23rd, it was caught. Let me see. Yeah, we don't have anything on there. But, I mean, at least that last one, I don't see why a judge would prohibit that because... So the defense's position for all of this is that what happened was the McMichaels were literally called up by the owner of this property saying, hey, this guy is coming here again. He's trying to steal things, or he did steal something. Can you go run him down for me, try and catch him? And they were called to do that. And so I would imagine that evidence, again, we're trying to find the aggressor, that, yes, this guy was repeatedly trying to break into this property. I don't know. To me, that looks relevant. Maybe you think different.
No, I think it is, but I mean, I haven't seen the discovery. I don't know the real facts of the case, but again, I think it comes down to prosecutors going to argue whatever they can argue, whatever they think they can get away with, whatever they think. Well, it's up to the judge. This crazy argument I've got. Let's see if he buys it, and they don't think about the fact that people's lives are on the line here. And, in their own head, they're thinking, well, somebody has died here. Somebody's life was already on the line, and they took it. And they justify that to themselves, but that's clearly not the gravity of the situation they need to grasp. One of these things that obviously I read a lot for the entrepreneurship side of things. So one of the things I read recently, it's a book called $1 Million Habits by Robert Ringer. It's like back in the 90s. It's a great book. He's got like an entire chapter on why he hates lawyers as an entrepreneur, and he's just trashing lawyers. And like throughout the book, he'll just pepper it with these. And this is why I hate legal man. And this is why legal man kills every deal. And this is why legal fees are a waste of money for a businessman. But one of these points, he's saying, I had a friend who was a federal prosecutor. Federal prosecutor gets out, he goes into business, so now they're friends. But he's saying, Robert, it's intoxicating. The power that you have when you have the entire weight of the government behind you, and you can threaten people and they bend to your will, and it's like the intoxication of power. And I've never heard anybody actually say that so honestly, but he's quoting this guy, and I don't remember the lawyer's name, and I don't think he put it in there because it's his friend, but that's clearly what is going on. These attorneys are intoxicated by the power that comes with having the government behind them, and they will train wreck people's lives just wielding that power unjustly. Like, people know that about police. People 100% understand cops can get out of line, they can have an attitude, they can abuse their badge, abuse their power, but no one ever thinks that about prosecutors. And so when prosecutors will get up and make these insane sorts of arguments, like, we should keep all of these things out, that would make a reasonable person think they are under attack by this crazy person, and so they shot him in self-defense. Nobody stops to think, like, this person is making these crazy arguments because they have the power of the entire government behind them. And who's going to stop them as they destroy these guys' lives in the media, at home? What are you going to do about it?
As soon as he said about the prosecutor intoxicated with his power, I mean, it reminds me of the prosecutor in the Rittenhouse case. His behavior, how he's argumentative with the judge and things like that. And, I think he's certainly one of those guys drunk on his power. I mean, just you can see it in the behavior. It just entitled to everything and weird.
Yeah, and these are the same people who will, go to the media, do interviews with the media, leak or otherwise publish, just blatantly publish all of the facts or all of the discovery that they want everybody to see. They'll publish all this to the media. They will destroy the defendant's life. And then if the defendant or the defense counsel shares anything with the media, oh my God, it's the end of the world. You're witness tampering. You are intimidating witnesses. You're intimidating the victim. You're, trying to taint the jury pool. It's wild, the disparity between reality and delusion in these prosecutors. Like, they can do whatever they want, and anyone who does the same thing or even a fraction of what they have done with the media, with anything, of putting up their theory of the case in public, they will throw a temper tantrum about it. So, yeah, it's something that you could teach an entire class on at law school for prosecutorial ethics alone.
Speaking of all of this, did I send you the article related to this case where, I'll just read the headline here, Republican Attorney General indicts prosecutor for not charging white men who shot black criminal in self-defense fast enough.
No.
So this, yeah. So
that sounds like a National Justice article. Where is that from?
It is.
Yeah, that's
National Justice. Absolute people do not read the.
Yeah, that's just nothing. I have nothing negative to say about National Justice, but the titles are often very loaded.
Yes.
Of the article. But I mean, it's it's fighting fire with fire. That's what the leftist outlets do. So National Justice doing the same thing. It's like, oh, here's a taste of your own medicine.
And the problem is that nobody else is reporting on this. So I was able to find a local news article about it, but not even spelling out exactly what's happening. So what happened was, for this Ahmaud Arbery McMichaels case, there was a lot of recusals, because the McMichaels, they worked in law enforcement. And in this case, this prosecutor, she recused herself because she's like, I know these guys, so I'm not going to be on the case. And she recused herself something like 2-3 days after the incident happened. And now the Georgia Attorney General, Chris Carr, he went and had her prosecuted for recusing herself.
I don't even understand the words that are coming out of your mouth right now. I have to see this indictment.
Yeah, so I don't know if I got
like a criminal indictment, or are you talking about like a complaint, an internal disciplinary measure? Like I'm not.
I believe it was
what
actually. I should have prepared this one better, because I believe 7-11 Alive Atlanta was saying that she was in jail, and now she got out of bond. Like, they literally arrested her.
No way.
Let me see if I can bring it up, how fast I can bring this up. What is the woman's name? Let's see.
Well, this might be the last piece of information because we are over the hour, and I've got an appointment at 9:30.
Oh, no. Okay. So, let me see. Her name is Jackie Johnson. So, how fast I can.
So while you're looking for that, I'll tell everyone in the audience, we've got articles on Chauvin. Court has denied his request for public defender. We've got an article on the Texas abortion law. We've got an article on Jacob Blake shooting, Caleb Cole. Apparently the judge banned unvaccinated persons from the jury. Wild. Which I guess technically they're saying isn't political, it's just for health reasons, of course, but amazingly all the conservatives happen to be in that pool. Also, James Fields, Dylan Roof, what was this last one? Oh, Robert Bowers. All of these guys are in the news right now. And then there's also a case about the Vatican being dragged into this abuse scandal. While won't even comment on that right now. We got a lot of articles to talk about, so we will get to all of those next week. Tiger, did you find the indictment for this woman?
I'm bringing it up right now. Let's see, but it is a criminal indictment, and she was held before a grand jury. So
on what charge? Like what do you accuse someone of for not prosecuting for
charged with
recusing
violation of oath of office of a public officer and obstruction. She could face several years in prison if convicted.
Obstruction for recusing herself?
Yes.
It's got to be more than that, man. They must be accusing her of burying evidence or something, maybe influencing someone not to press the charges or file the charges. Like, we're gonna have to look into that. We're gonna have to talk about it next week with all these other crazy articles we got. All right, so I'm posting one last time the link for review for the newsletter, and if my computer work, here we go. I'm gonna post one last time as well. Come on, man. The hoodie, the St. Augustine shirt we were talking about in the beginning. Uh-oh. For some reason, it's not posting. There we go. All right, well, the St. Augustine shirt posted. Here is the link again for the newsletter. Please sign up for the newsletter. That is how we stay in touch. So, Tiger, any parting thoughts for the evening?
I guess I'll do it.
All right, everybody. Well, stay in school, especially law school, and we will check you out next week. Good night, everyone. It's been real. That was a $2.